Hello there, I'm Robert McKay. I thought I had everything adjusted the way I wanted it. Obviously, I didn't. This is going to be sipping and talking. I'll go ahead and get me something to sip. Then I'll go to talking. And I spilled a drop of whiskey. Alcohol abuse. And of course, I do not mean to make light of addiction to alcohol, which is alcoholism. But if you can't joke about things at all because somebody's going to pitch a flying conniption fit, then you might as well just be a dead dog. Allergies are getting me tonight. What I'm drinking is Old Forester 100. Call it 100 because it's 100 proof. It doesn't have an actual name there like 1897 or Statesman or what have you. It is from the Old Forester distillery, which is part of Brown-Forman, which is one of the few giant liquor conglomerates that's American born and bred. It comes from, I can't remember the guy where the foreman comes from. Nope, I don't see it on here. But it was George Garvin Brown and somebody named Foreman, whose name I disremember. They got the Brown-Forman company going. And Old Forester, it says right there, is the first bottled bourbon. And that is the exact truth. It was the first bourbon in the world to sell only in sealed glass bottles. And the history behind that, which I'm going to try to be brief. I'm good at brief about the way I'm good at jumping over tall buildings in a single bound. Excuse me. There were, back in the 1800s, there were what they called whiskey rectifiers. And rectification is the act of cleaning something up, of purifying it. But they weren't purifying it. A lot of what they sold as whiskey wasn't whiskey at all. Or they'd take rot gut, just any old alcohol, and put stuff in it to give it color and a bead, put acid in it to give it a burn, and they'd sell it as whiskey. And so the Old Forester brand started bottling it, sealing it at the bottling line, and that was a guarantee that what was inside was genuine bourbon whiskey. And at some point that came, well, in 1897, but how long after this, I don't know. I don't know how long it was. In 1897 came the Bottled in Bond Act, where the government, federal government, stepped in and said, if you want to be sure you've got pure, unadulterated whiskey, buy stuff that's bottled in bond. And now most whiskey complies with the bottled in bond requirements, but it was a earth-shaking thing back then. Old Forester 100. It's a bourbon whiskey. It's 100 proof. It is a specifically Kentucky bourbon whiskey, and I've seen various figures from 90 to 95% of all bourbon comes from Kentucky. More and more bourbon is coming from outside Kentucky. But Kentucky is still the bourbon region, and Bardstown, Kentucky bills itself as the bourbon capital of the world, I work with a lady who for years lived in Bardstown. She and I are the only ones at work who talk Southern. Everybody else talks Yankee, poor things. But what I wanted to talk about here, and if I didn't mention, I believe I did, but if I didn't, I'm Forgetful Jones. I have a mind like a steel sieve. If I didn't mention it, this is a sipping and talking video. We all of us who drink whiskey have our preferences. I prefer bourbon. Some people prefer Scottish whiskey, some prefer Irish, some prefer rye whiskey. I suppose there's people who prefer corn whiskey, although the market for that's mighty small. There's people who prefer 80 proof. There's people who prefer 130 proof. I prefer 90 proof and better. This is 100. I believe I mentioned that. Did I tell you my name's Forgetful Jones? I can't remember. Did I tell you this is whiskey? Did I ask you that already? Anything you want me to remember, I can't. But if it's useless trivia that don't do me nor anybody else any good, that I can hold on to. If I understood how that worked, I could make zillions. I can't remember. Did I say I could make zillions? Oh yes, let's drive this one right in the ground. Let's beat this dead horse to death. Let's see, I prefer bourbon, I prefer 90 proof and above, but some people prefer 80 to 90 proof. There's some people, and I've already named different kinds of whiskey some people prefer. Everybody's got preferences. Now, as far as I have ever learned, there isn't anybody who only drinks one particular kind of whiskey, who only drinks Scotch, who only drinks bourbon, who only drinks rye. There may be some such. And people who drink it just to get drunk might drink nothing but Jack Daniels or Jim Beam, which is dumb because them things 80 proof whiskey flavored water. You could get drunker quicker buying something a little higher in proof. But if you're drinking just to get drunk, you're not thinking too clear in the first place. And some people like whiskey with a darker profile, like this Old Forester has, like Knob Creek has, like Wild Turkey used to. And I need to get me another bottle of the 101 back the latter part of 2024. The quality just went, it didn't become bad, but it wasn't what it had been. And when I finally got another bottle in the early part of 2025, I guess in the spring, it was back up to tasting as good as it had before, but the profile had changed. It was a brighter profile, a sunnier one, if I can put it that way. And some people like a bright flavor profile. Some people like a dark profile. Some people like fruity whiskey. Some people like earthy whiskey. Some people like more oak. Some people like less. I've got a video in my Whiskey Basics playlist about how every palate is different. And this is kind of along the same lines, except a preference is not quite the same thing as the notes you get. You know, two people may get the same notes from a whiskey, more or less, and, you know, generally speaking. Two people may have a glass of Old Forester 100. One gets these notes, the other gets mostly the same notes. As I said, the allergies are after me tonight. But this one may like the notes he gets and the other may not. They may bring out a bottle of Old Granddad 114 and get mostly the same notes. Well, this one doesn't like that fruity profile, but this one does. They might bring out a bottle of Sagamore Spirit Cast Strength Rye and get the same notes. But this one don't like rye whiskey at all, and this one loves it. And so every palate being different is related to preference, but it isn't the same thing, not at all. Now, I like a good fruity whiskey just like I like a good earthy whiskey. I like some bright stuff and some dark stuff. I tend to like the dark profiles a bit more than the light and bright and fruity ones, though. But I like them both. But I definitely prefer bourbon. Now, a good rye, I'll drink now and again. Right now I have Sagamore Spirit Double Oak, which is absolutely delicious. And I have a small bottle of Knob Creek Rye. By the way, Sagamore Spirit Double Oak Rye whiskey. I don't believe I mentioned that it was rye, although hopefully the context made it clear. I also have a small bottle of Knob Creek Rye whiskey. I've had one glass out of it. I liked it okay, but we'll see how things go. I didn't think to save it and review it, but I had a bottle of Bullet Rye, and 4 years ago when I was just starting, I tried both of those and liked them. But then I hadn't had any of either for about 3 years. And I thought I'd go back and try them out. And the Bullet I didn't care for at all. Now I like Bullet Bourbon, which is a high rye mash bill. I like some other high rye bourbons. Old Granddad is a high rye mash bill. But I didn't care for the Bullet Rye. And as I say, I didn't think to save it until I could review it. I just chucked it. The Knob Creek Rye, we'll see what I think of it on the second and third glass. So far, it's not bad. But when I do have a rye around, I generally just have but the one bottle, and the rest bourbon or maybe corn whiskey. And I like a good corn whiskey, and I specify a good corn whiskey. I've had 5 or 6, I believe. When I was just starting out, I had Longhorn Texas corn whiskey, and it was awful, nasty sour. I've had New Mexico Blue corn whiskey, and it was awful. It was just nasty and sour. I've had Balcones Baby Blue corn whiskey, which used to be great, but the last bottle I had wasn't no good at all. I don't know what it was about it. It wasn't corked, but it wasn't up to the usual standard, and the bottle before that was better, but still not up to the usual standard. And so I guess I'm not drinking that anymore, even if I can find it. At least not for a while. I have had Melicorn, which is the only bottled in bond corn whiskey, and I like it okay. At least I did the last time I had a bottle. I've had 2 or 3 bottles of it, but it does have some sourness to it. And I definitely like Abasolo, or in Spanish Abasolo, in Texas English Abasolo corn whiskey, which is from Mexico. They make it from 100% cacahuacintle corn. They sprout a portion of the corn before they dry and grind it which serves the same purpose as sprouted barley. Gives it a little extra flavor, a little extra enzymes to help the fermentation. And that's good. And it has a note on the nose that reminds me of the Abuelita hot chocolate mix that you can find at least around here in grocery stores. This stuff sure smells good. And it tastes good too. I'm not doing a review of it, although I think I believe I done reviewed it already once, but all the earlier videos in my review playlist are really awful in quality. This is amateur, but they're just awful. And so what I think I might do, I haven't quite fully made up my mind, is even stuff that I've already reviewed, do a new video of it, upload that, and maybe eventually get around to deleting some of them older videos. Or I might leave them just so anybody who wants to see how bad it can be can go look and see. Where am I at? 16:45 and counting. And I've kind of wandered hither and thither, but it's all been in the general category of whiskey preferences. Some people prefer Coke. Other people don't know what they're doing, and so they prefer Pepsi. Some people might not even prefer whiskey. There are people who like tequila, people who, don't ask me why, like vodka. What's there to like about vodka? If it's any good at all, it's not going to have much flavor unless you added some back in, because they distill it at such a high proof that almost all the flavor's gone out of it. So why anybody would like vodka, I don't know. If you want to make a mixed drink, well, you can do that with something else too, and that something else you can drink straight if you want to. And some people prefer not to drink alcohol at all. Or some people prefer beer. Or some people prefer wine. And you get over into wine and beer, and you got a zillion different preferences there can be. I have enough trouble keeping up with all the variety in whiskey. I'm glad I didn't wind up getting into wine. You got a zillion different types of wine, and then within that one type you got a zillion different varieties and vineyards and all this stuff, and it would confuse the living daylights out of me. And then you drink one wine with this kind of food, and you drink that wine with the other kind of food, and you got your red wine, your white wine, your rosé, fortified wine. If I was going to drink wine, I might wind up just getting me some old Mad Dog. Except after drinking whiskey, I probably couldn't stand the cheap taste of it. Yeah, we all have different preferences. Which preferences are right? Mine. Didn't you know that? Of course they're mine. My preferences are right for me. And that, yeah, now I'm getting serious. I joke, I say, if you don't agree with me, you're dead flat wrong, and I feel sorry for you. But when I'm being serious, what you like is what you ought to drink. Not what you think you should drink. Not what it's cool to drink, or trendy, or hip, or whatever the word is this 5 minutes. Don't never let nobody tell you what you should drink or whether you should drink. Make up your own mind. And if you decide to drink, drink what you yourself personally like. And if it's something I can't stand, tough toenails, I don't have to drink it. So, I don't know what toast to use, so here's a good old generic one. Cheers.